Hi, my name is Abby Shemish. I am the founder and chief acquisitions officer at Amerinote Xchange. And today I'm here to talk to you about trust deeds and deeds of trust. So a trust deed or a deed of trust is a security instrument typically used in non-judicial foreclosure states. They're also known as deed of trust states. Just for context, the foreclosure states that are judicial do not use deeds of trust. They use mortgages or mortgage deeds. So it's a different foreclosure process. Different states utilize different security instruments, but I would say, roughly speaking, about half of the country uses trust deeds and deeds of trust. The biggest states that come to mind are California, North Carolina, Texas, and then, of course, many others. That being said, let's dive right in. So what is a trust deed? A trust deed, as I mentioned, is a security instrument. What that basically means is when a loan is originated or a note is created, they tether the actual loan to the property, right? So that is what tethers or connects the loan to the property, a security instrument. So the loan or the promissory note will describe the loan terms, what happens in the case of default, what legal venue the default occurs in, and so forth. The deed of trust will discuss the property itself, the legal description, and all other attributes of the property in that particular case. So simply put, a deed of trust is a security instrument, and that's exactly how it operates. Now, why is a deed of trust used, and why are these things sold? When someone looks for, like yourself, a trust deed buyer, they're basically selling both the note and the trust deed. These two documents create a legal debt within the real estate asset class, whether it be issued by a bank or originated by a bank or a credit union, or it's originated by a private individual or a private corporation. We all have access to use these types of instruments in order to create mortgage debt, whether we're selling a house or buying a house. So that being said, a trust deed is used in a non-judicial foreclosure state. So what does that mean? Not to make this a foreclosure discussion, and if you want to learn more about the foreclosure processes in each state, you would go to Amerinote Xchange/foreclosure-laws, foreclosure-laws. And there we have all 50 states, all the information you will need to know about foreclosure processes in each state. But sticking to the point of non-judicial foreclosure state, non-judicial is exactly that. A deed of trust state usually means that it does not have to go through the court process. In layman's terms, you do not need to get a judge's permission to take your property back if you're a lender, right? Or begin the foreclosure process. It's all done usually out of court through a trustee. That's why it's called deed of trust. So that being said, a deed of trust is actually a description of the security instrument, not necessarily the note. The more proper search or proper term would be sell mortgage note or selling a mortgage note, because that's really, we buy notes in all 50 states, including deeds of trust states. But just to stick to the point, what do you need? How do you sell? And what's the process of selling a deed of trust? This is the big one, right? Aside from how much you will receive from an offer, we can talk about the process. So the process is pretty simple. You'd want to gather the mortgage note itself, the deed of trust, and then the closing statement from the sale. With those three documents, you'll easily be able to either pull the information for a quote or submit those documents to Amerinote Xchange to get a quote. In order to complete the sale, in order for us to actually fund the deal, once the quote is accepted and we start underwriting it, the only 2 or 3 items that you're going to need in addition to those 3 is the payment history on the deed of trust or promissory note, meaning your bank history of collecting the payments, timely payments. And we don't need the entire bank statement. We're just talking about like a bank printout or some sort of payment record that comes from a third party like Zelle or Wells Fargo or Chase or something to that effect. The other thing you'll need is a copy of your lender's title policy, and then of course a copy of the hazard or homeowner's insurance. With those 6 items, those are enough to get the note sold with Amerinote Xchange. As far as the process, very simple. When you submit it, you get a quote. Once you get a quote, you like what you move forward, we'll send you a note sale authorization package, which is basically a 2-signature DocuSign. Once you authorize us in writing, and then of course you get us the 3 to 6 items that I just previously mentioned, we're then off to the races on underwriting, which takes anywhere between 3.5 and 5 weeks, depending on how urban, suburban, or rural the property is. So urban and suburban will move quicker than rural. How special use the property is, right? So if we're talking about a very weird property like an RV park or a football stadium or a college dormitory, that's going to take a lot longer than a single family residence or like a condo or a townhouse. In addition to that, 3 to 5 weeks on typical turnaround. And then really what would happen is the closing would occur through a title company or attorney of your choosing. We can also do it by mail, and we can also accommodate sellers that are not located in the United States that hold United States real estate debt by going to the local consulate, US consulate in the country that you're currently located in, and you can close the loan via the consulate because they do have notary stamps there, which is very important and necessary to get the deal done. If you're not married or you don't have a specific idea to how you want to close it, Amerinote Xchange can absolutely reach into our very vast and deep network of closing options and provide you with a seamless transaction. With that, all of that out of the way, the big question, how much are you going to get on an offer? This is a wildly varying answer. The standard operating answer and the short answer is assuming that the payments are on time and assuming that the property is a freestanding structure with someone occupying it, whether it be a business or a owner-occupier, meaning someone who owns the property, lives there, works there, whatever. The note will sell for between 65 cents on the dollar on the low end, as high as 95 cents on the dollar on the high end, meaning you will receive between 65% and 95% of what you're owed today. So if you're owed on a remaining principal balance of $100,000, on that $100,000 note, you'll receive an offer roughly between $65,000 and $95,000, depending on the metrics or the characteristics of the loan and the metrics and characteristics of the collateral, in addition to the credit worthiness of the borrower. So all of those ingredients come into play, which is why it's not a straightforward answer, because every single note is different. It's just like every McDonald's is different. Every business in McDonald's is different. Even though it's the same brand, one location may be worth more money than another location. So it all varies, and it is all case by case. With that being said, I hope this information has been helpful. If you do have a note or a trust deed or a deed of trust that you'd want to sell, please feel free to visit us at our website, AmerinoteXchange.com. Simply click Get a Quote at the top right-hand corner of any page, or absolutely positively feel free to just call us or email us with the documentation, and we'll be more than happy to service your request. In the meantime, I hope this has been helpful, and I thank you, and we'll see you at Amerinote Xchange. Thank you.